It is officially over the way Claressa Shields imagined it going, and I mean over in the way that does not come with a rematch, does not come with a redemption arc, does not come with a phone call from a network apologizing for how they handled it. The woman who spent the last decade telling everybody within earshot that she was the greatest woman of all time, the woman who publicly informed most valuable promotions that they needed her more than she needed them, the woman who allegedly put hands on Alycia Baumgardner at a Netflix industry afterparty in front of half the boxing business. That woman is now sitting at home watching the fighter she reportedly slapped get cast on a major primetime network show while the awards she was supposed to win are being handed to somebody else, one after another after another. And the part nobody is saying out loud in this conversation yet, the part one need you to hear before we go one sentence further, is that this was never a boxing story. This was a business story wearing a beef costume, and the business has quietly handed down its verdict, and the verdict is that Alycia Baumgardner is being elevated by every major platform in the sport while Claressa Shields is being walked, very politely and very deliberately, to the door. Everything you thought you were watching, the slap, the MVP ban, the Papoose situation, the Wynn Records deal, the beef with Laila Ali, the sister exile, the cousin drama, the awards losses, the reality show casting on Fox and Hulu, those are not 10 separate stories. That is one story being told from 10 different angles, and when you line all of them up side by side, the way I am about to line them up for you, you will understand why Alycia Baumgardner is main eventing on ESPN, headlining MVPW cards at Madison Square Garden, and now walking on to Special Forces Season 5 on Fox, while Claressa Shields is trying to explain to her own audience why every door she used to walk through is being closed behind her. I promise you, when we get to the industry breakdown of what MVP's ESPN deal actually means, and what Fox's brand safety casting process really tells you about who the networks see as the future of women's boxing, you are going to understand that the ban from MVP events was not the punishment. The ban was the announcement. Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit like, and subscribe. Let's get into it. Let me set the table properly for the people who somehow scrolled into this video without knowing the full context, because the context is not a footnote here, the context is the whole story. The two women at the center of everything are Claressa Shields and Alycia Baumgardner, and on paper they should not even be having this conversation because they operate in different weight classes and different lanes of the sport. Claressa Shields, in strict boxing terms, is the most accomplished female boxer of her generation. Two-time Olympic gold medalist. First American boxer, male or female, to win back-to-back Olympic golds. Undisputed champion in multiple weight divisions. A woman who legitimately moved the pay ceiling for women in the sport upward with her own name and her own performances. That resume is not up for debate, and I am not going to pretend it is. Alycia Baumgardner, meanwhile, is the unified super featherweight world champion, one of the most technically refined fighters in her division, and this is the piece that matters for everything else in this video, a signed fighter under Most Valuable Promotions, the promotional company run by Laila Ali and Jake Paul, which is now the single most powerful force in women's boxing because of their multi-year media rights partnership with ESPN. These two were once cordial. That has to be said because the story does not make sense unless you understand it started somewhere civil. This is not two women who came into the sport hating each other. But somewhere along the way, Baumgardner reportedly made comments about Claressa's now partner Papoose that Claressa took very personally, and instead of handling that in a media exchange or a fight negotiation, Claressa carried the grudge into a room she should never have brought it into. That room was the private industry after-party following the Ronda Rousey vs. Gina Carano MVP MMA debut card on Netflix. VIP only. Industry only. The room where you shake hands with the executive who greenlights your next documentary, not the room where you settle a personal beef. According to ESPN's reporting and video that eventually surfaced, Claressa slapped Alycia Baumgardner's hand away in an exchange that escalated into physical contact, and MVP responded exactly the way any promoter with an 8-figure ESPN deal on the line was always going to respond. They banned her. Not warned her. Not suspended her. Banned her from all future MVP events until further notice, and ESPN reported it, and Yahoo Sports reported it, and every serious boxing outlet covered it in real time. The stakes here are not measured in a slap. The stakes are measured in the fact that Claressa's entire business identity as the face of women's boxing runs directly through the exact promotional infrastructure she just got herself locked out of. And the question this entire video is going to answer is a simple one. How does the most accomplished woman in her sport end up on the wrong side of the door while the woman she hit walks through it into her biggest career year ever? And why is nobody in Claressa's inner circle telling her the truth about what is actually happening to her right now? Let me walk you through what the surface layer of this looks like, because before we even get to the deeper stuff, the surface layer alone is enough to end most careers. Piece of evidence number 1, and this is not a blog, this is not a rumor page, this is ESPN.com reporting it directly. Most Valuable Promotions issued a formal public statement banning Claressa Shields from all future MVP events after her altercation with Baumgardner at MVP MMA 1. Read that language back to yourself. All future MVP events. Not the next one, Not the one after, all of them. In a sport where MVP now controls the biggest women's boxing media rights deal in American history, that language is not a slap on the wrist. That language is a professional excommunication written in the polite voice of a press release. And Baumgardner, according to the reporting on her camp, is not letting the incident die quietly. She has indicated publicly that she is looking at handling it legally, which means this is not just a promotional ban sitting over Claressa's head, this is a potential civil situation sitting over her head while she is trying to negotiate her next fight and the fight after that. Piece of evidence number 2 is the piece that turned this from a boxing story into a full career story, the Fox and Hulu casting. Special Forces, World's Toughest Test Season 5, premiering Thursday, September 24th on Fox with next day streaming on Hulu, has officially cast Alycia Baumgardner as one of its 15 celebrity recruits. That is not a rumor floating on TikTok. That is TV Line confirming it. That is just Jared confirming it. That is E! News confirming it. She is listed alongside Matt Barnes, Candace Cameron Bure, Hannah Stocking, David Charvet, Colin Gosselin, George Santos, Maxim Nomov, and the rest of a stacked primetime cast. That is what a legitimate broadcast network doing legitimate business with a public figure looks like. A slot on a proven show, a next-day streaming deal with one of the largest platforms in the country, and a promotional cycle that will run through September and beyond. Piece of evidence number 3, and I want you to sit with this one because it is the fight industry piece, MVPW02, the inaugural United States MVPW event, which streamed live on ESPN and the ESPN app from the theater at Madison Square Garden on April 17th. The main event was Alycia Baumgardner defending her unified super featherweight titles against Bo-Mi Ri Shin over 10 rounds. Baumgardner won by unanimous decision. On ESPN. In New York. At the Garden. That is not a fighter being quietly punished for being involved in an altercation. That is a fighter being pushed as the flagship face of a promotional company's American launch. Piece of evidence number 4 is the Claressa Award situation, and this one hurts because it did not have to hurt. She was nominated for the BET Sportswoman of the Year award and lost it to Angel Reese, marking her third loss in that category after previous losses to Simone Biles and Naomi Osaka. And the way she reacted publicly, on Yahoo, on Instagram, in interviews, was not the way a professional at her level of accomplishment is supposed to react to losing an award. She questioned it. She made content about it. Papoose himself went online questioning why BET keeps quote-unquote robbing her. Every one of those posts became more content about the loss, which if you understand anything about how algorithms and public perception and voting bodies actually work, is the single fastest way to make sure the next round of nominations does not go your way either. Every one of these 4 pieces is verifiable, on the record, and public. And every one of them individually would be a bad week for a career. All 4 of them stacked on top of each other inside the same 12 months is not a bad week. That is a pattern. That is a trajectory. And a trajectory is a scarier thing than a bad week, because a bad week ends and a trajectory keeps going. And oh, do I have so much more for you, because if you thought the surface layer was rough, we have not even gotten to the part where the culture itself, the people around her, the fighters in adjacent lanes, and even her own family circle are all signaling the exact same thing that the networks are signaling from the outside. The Claressa defenders in the comments are really not going to like what is coming up next, because when we get to the Wynn Records section, the label she reportedly signed to as part of that $8 million arrangement with Salida Promotions, the label that is supposed to be building her music career alongside her partner Papoose, you are going to understand why the word manufactured is the only word that fits what is being constructed around this woman's brand right now. Stay with me for that section, because the numbers on that side of the deal tell a story the press release did not tell. The cultural layer of this is where it stops being a boxing conversation and becomes a conversation about who the culture is deciding to reward and who the culture is deciding to move past, because Claressa is not just losing to Baumgardner in the industry sense, she is losing to every single person she has ever publicly picked a fight with in the cultural sense, and that is the part that has to sting worse than the ban. Look at Laila Ali. Laila Ali, who Claressa has been publicly needling for years, who Claressa has said she would beat, who Claressa has claimed turned on her, Laila Ali is currently living what looks from every angle like a career second act. Her spice line is running. Her recipe content is running. She shows up as a commentator and analyst inside MVP-adjacent boxing content. Publishers, brand partners, and the exact same networks that are quietly pulling away from Claressa are quietly leaning in on Laila. Whether you like Laila Ali personally or you do not like Laila Ali personally, the metrics do not lie. The woman is being invited into rooms Claressa is being uninvited from, and she is being invited because she is what the industry calls brand safe. Brand safe is not a compliment about your personality. Brand safe is a compliment about your risk profile. Second piece of cultural evidence, the Remy Ma situation, which got tangled into all of this by proxy because of the Papoose connection. Remy Ma, over on her side of the picture, is out here doing music, doing appearances, showing up at Knicks playoff games, doing brand work, doing lifetime-adjacent content. Metrics are metrics. Remy is working, Remy is being received, Remy is not the one publicly explaining herself every week on Instagram Live. Third piece of cultural evidence, and this is the one that is closest to home and the hardest one to talk about because it involves family. Claressa herself has publicly confirmed a fallout with her sister. Her cousin, Shalita, has been at the center of a whole separate storyline involving reported family funeral drama. Longtime friends have reportedly parted ways. Now I want to be clear here, because family is family, and I am not going to pretend I know what happens behind closed doors. A lot of that is private business, and none of us should pretend we have the full picture. But when the pattern of the people walking away from you is that consistent, when it is a sister and a cousin and a longtime friend all moving in the same direction in the same 12-month window, at some point the common denominator stops being every one of them and starts being the one person in the middle. That is not a moral judgment. That is a math observation. Fourth piece of cultural evidence, and this is the one I need you to really absorb, is the tone of the boxing media around Claressa versus the tone of the boxing media around Baumgardner right now. Not what they are saying about each fighter. The tone. When ESPN wrote up the MVP ban, they were factual, neutral, straight news. When ESPN wrote up MVP W02 in New York, when they wrote up the main event build, when they wrote up Baumgardner's title defense, they wrote her as the centerpiece of a new promotional era. The framing is different. The photograph selection is different. The headline energy is different. That is not journalists picking sides, and I want to be careful to say that because I am not accusing ESPN of bias. That is journalists reflecting the direction the industry is already moving. The media does not decide who the face is. The media reflects who the industry has already decided the face is. And right now, everybody with a decision-making seat has voted the same way, and Claressa is not on the ballot anymore because Claressa reportedly got herself banned from the ballot. Now I know somebody in the comments is going to say, but Claressa signed an $8 million deal with Shalita and Wynn Records, so she is not going anywhere. And you are absolutely right. She did sign that reported $8 million multi-fight arrangement, and she is still one of the highest-paid women in the sport on paper. But a deal is not a trajectory. A deal is a snapshot. A deal is what you were worth on the day you signed it. What we are talking about in this video is what you are worth 6 months, 12 months, 24 months from now, at renewal time, at the next negotiation, at the next endorsement pitch. And every cultural signal, every media tone, every casting decision, every award vote, every quiet business call is saying the same thing, and the thing they are saying is that the sport is quietly building around Baumgardner and quietly building past Claressa. Now let me show you the part of this story that turns it from a beef into a full industry breakdown, because until you understand how the business side actually works in 2026, you cannot understand why the ban was really the announcement. Here is where I have to switch gears completely, because everything up to this point has been what you can see on the surface. Everything up to this point has been what shows up on Instagram, what shows up on ESPN.com, what shows up in a deadline casting announcement. What I'm about to walk you through is the part that lives underneath all of that, the part that actually decides who eats in this sport in 2026 and who does not. Let me explain what MVP actually is right now, because most casual fans still have a mental model of Most Valuable Promotions as Jake Paul's little side company that puts on YouTuber fights and Mike Tyson exhibitions, and that mental model is about 3 years out of date. Most Valuable Promotions in 2026 is the company that launched MVPW, a dedicated women's boxing division, and locked in a landmark multi-year media rights deal with ESPN to house that division's events on ESPN and the ESPN app. Say that again slowly. A dedicated women's boxing promotional arm with its own guaranteed distribution on the biggest sports network in the country. That structure does not exist anywhere else in the sport. Not with Top Rank in the same form. Not with Matchroom in the same form. Not with PBC. MVPW is the first purpose-built women's boxing platform with a locked-in ESPN pipeline, and that is angle one of the industry breakdown, infrastructure. Whoever the face of MVPW is over the next several years is by definition the face of women's boxing in America over the next several years, because the distribution deal locks it in. And MVP has voted, unambiguously and publicly, that Baumgardner is going to be that face. ESPN said it out loud in feature coverage. The MVPW02 main event slot said it out loud on the card. Fox's Special Forces casting said it out loud in a completely different sector of the entertainment industry. Every decision-making seat has voted the same way, and Claressa reportedly took herself off the ballot when the ban came down. Angle 2 of the industry breakdown is what happens to a fighter's leverage when the single biggest platform in her sport is no longer available to her as a negotiating option. Claressa's leverage in any negotiation from this point forward depends on there being multiple credible bidders for her services. She has a reported deal with Shalita Promotions. She has a reported arrangement with Wynn Records on the music side. She reportedly has partnerships and appearances elsewhere. I say reportedly on all of that because deal terms are always privately negotiated and public reporting only tells you so much. But the math on negotiating leverage is not complicated and it does not care about how much you have accomplished in the past. If MVP has voluntarily taken themselves off the table on your side because they banned you, and if every other promoter in the sport can see MVP has an ESPN pipeline you cannot access, then every other promoter negotiating with you knows something you cannot make them unknow. They know they are the only credible party in the room. They know your ceiling is now their offer. That is what a ban actually costs. It does not cost you the specific events on the specific cards. It costs you the negotiating floor across every other deal you sign for as long as the ban is in place. Every dollar Claressa negotiates for the rest of this era, she is negotiating with one hand tied behind her back and the person across the table knowing that hand is tied. That is not a conspiracy theory. That is basic contract dynamics 101. And that is angle 2. Angle 3 is the one that ties this entire video together, and it is the brand safety calculus that networks like Fox run before they cast anyone in a primetime reality slot. When Fox greenlights a Special Forces cast for a season with next-day Hulu distribution, they are not just looking for interesting personalities to fill 15 slots. They are looking for insurable personalities. They are looking at social media histories. They are looking at public conduct patterns. They are looking at incidents on the public record. They are looking at pending legal exposure. They are looking at whether the person's name in a promotional clip drives engagement or drives boycotts. That is not speculation. That is standard industry practice at every broadcast network in the country. Every cast member of every reality show goes through some version of that filter, and the filter has gotten stricter, not looser, over the last 5 years. So when Fox looked at Alycia Baumgardner and said yes, and when they simultaneously did not look at Claressa Shields and did not say yes, that was not an oversight. That was the brand safety machine doing exactly what it is designed to do. Baumgardner reportedly cleared that filter and Claressa reportedly did not, and the reason is not that Baumgardner is a better fighter than Claressa Shields. She is not. Nobody is arguing that. The reason is that when Baumgardner was allegedly assaulted at a public industry event on a Netflix-connected card, she reportedly said she would handle it professionally and through the appropriate channels. When the video went public, Baumgardner was the party the network could see standing calmly on the right side of the incident, and Claressa was the party the network could see banned by the promoter of the event she was banned from. In brand safety math, that is not a close call. That is a one-line decision. And what nobody in Claressa's camp seems willing to tell her out loud is that this exact decision, the Fox decision, is not a one-time miss. That decision will get made the same way at every casting call, every major endorsement pitch, every commentary booth opening, every documentary greenlight meeting for the next 24 to 36 months, because that is roughly how long an incident of this profile lives in the industry risk model before it starts to fade. 3 angles. Infrastructure. Leverage. Brand safety. Every one of them pointing the same way. Here is the truth bomb. The ban was the announcement. Everything that has happened since the reported slap has been the industry politely, quietly, formally announcing that Claressa Shields is no longer the person they see as the face of women's boxing in the United States, and that the face going forward is Alycia Baumgardner. That announcement did not come in a press release, because the industry does not do press releases for that kind of decision. The industry does that decision by simply not booking you, not casting you, not calling you, not renewing you, not featuring you, and by making a different name the answer to every question about who the star of the sport is. And that is what has been happening in slow motion for months. Every ESPN feature about the future of women's boxing has Baumgardner's name near the top. Every MVPW card has Baumgardner in the main event or near it. Fox and Hulu casting has Baumgardner in the promo photos alongside Matt Barnes and Candace Cameron Bure and the rest of the Season 5 recruits. Meanwhile, Claressa is generating content about awards she did not win, about Angel Reese winning something that was supposed to go to her, about Papoose asking BET why they keep robbing her, about the Wynn Records deal and the music that is reportedly not landing at numbers that match the promotional push. And here's the part that I know is going to upset a lot of loyal Claressa fans in the comments, and I'm going to say it anyway because it is true. The reason this hits so hard, the reason this is not just a normal career dip, is that her original story is one of the most powerful in the entire sport. Flint, Michigan. 2 Olympic gold medals. First American boxer of any gender to win back-to-back Olympic golds. Undisputed in multiple divisions. That is a story networks are supposed to be lined up to tell, publishers are supposed to be lined up to buy, executives are supposed to be lined up to greenlight. And the reason no line has formed for that story right now is not because that story stopped being true. That story is still true, every accomplishment is still on the resume, every gold medal is still hanging in whatever room she hangs it in. The reason the line has not formed is because the person telling the story, day after day, in ranting videos, in dismissive interviews, in the alleged incident at the Netflix event, in the reported reactions to the ban, has made herself, in the eyes of the industry, too expensive to work with, too volatile to insure, too public with her grievances to trust in a room where the network needs to be certain the talent will not blow up their own show mid-cycle. That is the truth bomb. Her boxing resume is not the problem. Her boxing resume was always the strongest asset she had. The problem is that the industry, in 2026, does not do business with resumes. The industry does business with people. And the person the industry is being asked to do business with right now, publicly angry, publicly banned, publicly at odds with almost every other prominent woman in the sport, publicly in a relationship storyline that has consumed the professional identity, is reportedly not the person the industry wants to bet on for the next chapter of women's boxing. That is the reality. That is what the ESPN feature framing is really saying. That is what the Fox casting decision is really saying. That is what 3 consecutive BET losses in the same category are really saying. And that is what the silence from every major partnership Claressa does not already have locked in is really saying. And the tragedy of it is that it was all avoidable. All of it was one professional apology, one quieter 12 months, one moment of public discipline away from being a completely different story. That apology has not come and does not look like it is coming, and that is why we are where we are. And through all of that, the person who has done nothing but keep working is winning. That is the resolution here, and I want to say it plainly because the story deserves to close clean. Alycia Baumgardner did not respond to the reported slap by running to Instagram every night with a new video about it. She did not go on a grievance tour. She did not turn her fight camp into a soap opera. She said what she needed to say publicly, indicated she would handle it through the correct channels, and then she went and did the work. The ESPN main event on April 17th. The unanimous decision win over Bomi Ri Shin at the theater at Madison Square Garden. The MVPW headliner slot. The Fox and Hulu Special Forces casting confirmed by TV Line, Just Jared, and E! News. She let the results argue for her while the other side argued for itself. That is what professional discipline looks like in this sport. That is what a fighter who understands the ring is only part of the job looks like. One person makes content about the sport. The other person makes moves inside the sport. One person is trying to prove she is still relevant by talking about it every week. The other person is being made relevant by every gatekeeper in the industry choosing to build around her. And when you zoom all the way out, that is why this was always going to end the way it is ending. The industry does not reward the loudest voice in the room. The industry rewards the voice the room can trust to be there next quarter, next year, next contract cycle. Baumgardner has quietly become that voice, and she became it not by winning the shouting match but by never entering it in the first place. That is the hero arc. That is what a course-corrected culture looks like when the culture actually course-corrects. Meanwhile, every single person Claressa has publicly beefed with, Baumgardner in the fight lane, Laila Ali in the media and lifestyle lane, Remy Ma by proxy in the music lane, is thriving in her own separate lane, in ways you can measure in bookings, in main event slots, in publisher-backed brand extensions, in casting decisions, in engagement metrics. Every one of them. It is not one isolated person. It is all of them at the same time. And when everyone you are in conflict with is winning while you are the only one losing, at some point the honest question is not what is wrong with them, it is what is happening on your side of the equation. Women's boxing is going to be fine. The sport is in strong hands. The face of it is a champion who conducts herself like a champion, backed by the most aggressive promotional infrastructure the sport has ever seen, distributed on the biggest network in American sports, now crossing over into unscripted primetime through Fox and Hulu. The right person is in the right position, and the receipts are on ESPN.com, on TV Line, on Just Jared, on E! News, on the MVP official channels, on every single primary source that has covered this story in real time. And Claressa Shields, if she wants to be part of that future, still can be. But the path back runs directly through an apology she has publicly refused to give, to a promoter she has publicly said she does not need, on behalf of a fighter she has publicly said cannot fight her. That is a very long walk back. I am not sure she is going to take it. And this is only the start of the story, because 2 things are already lining up on the horizon that you are going to want to be around for. The first thing is Baumgardner's next MVPW date on ESPN, whenever it lands on the calendar. That card is going to be the moment the promotional company either fully coronates her as the flagship of the entire women's boxing division or hedges by sharing the top slot with somebody new. The way that card gets sold, the co-main slot, the network push, the entertainment media crossover, the promo photography, you will be able to read the entire near-term future of the sport off that one lineup. I am going to break that card down for you the day it drops, and if you are subscribed you will get the breakdown the moment it goes live. The second thing is Claressa's next move, and I mean her next real move, not her next Instagram post. Somebody in her camp, or Claressa herself in a private moment of clarity, is going to have to decide whether the current path continues or whether the professional route back into MVP's good graces, back into ESPN's ecosystem, back into the primetime rooms, is worth the swallow of pride it would cost. That decision, when it comes, is going to happen fast, and it is going to happen quietly, and I am going to be here to break it down the moment it moves. So if you have made it to this point in the video, first of all, you are amazing, and I appreciate you for real, because you sat through the full breakdown when a lot of people would have bounced at the first accusation they did not like. Second, subscribe, because this story is moving fast and I do not want you to miss the update the day it hits. And third, if you want to know exactly why Papoose's music career and Wynn Records' entire operation are the strangest, most quietly manufactured story in hip-hop right now, and why a certain music video with reported view counts that do not match its comment engagement is the most damning single piece of evidence about what is actually being built at that label, click the next video up on your screen right now. Because when I broke down the numbers on that video, comment by comment, engagement rate by engagement rate, likes ratio by likes ratio, what I found was a pattern that does not just implicate one artist. It implicates the entire label, and by extension, the entire promotional structure Claressa has now attached her name to. That is the video you cannot afford to miss. Click it right now. I will see you over there.